Welcome back. This is part 3 of the facial tracking tutorial series within Neos. We're going to be doing a scripted action based on the tongue position today. You can also do scripted actions based on facial shapes, including lips and cheek shapes. We'll be doing those in part 4. I wanted to split things up into 2 parts so we can explain the different concepts at play. This part will be involving coordinate systems and things like that, and the next part will be involving detecting weighted sort of percentage values and stuff like that. I will talk about them both sort of mixed between the two, but this one is focused on the tongue, and the next one will be focused on the sort of mouth shapes. So do watch part 1 and 2 if you're unfamiliar with the facial tracker or how to set it up with your avatar. This will go into more advanced techniques. This also is covered in Fruxis's video, linked in the video description. Again, I'm operating under the principle that more information is better. You know, if you've got different sources, you can learn better, etc. So do check out Fruxis's video there. I don't want to sort of dampen or throw shade at that video. That's a great video, so do watch that one as well. This is just my take on it and my approach to it. So let's get started. I'm just going to show you what we're going to be creating first, because it's actually on my avatar. I added it to my avatar, I think a couple of days ago, and it's been great fun playing around with it. But there may be changes as you know, it's on my avatar, so it may improve later. But I'll showing you the basic setup that I've got going. Let's go ahead and show you it, so I'm not you know, adding suspense anymore. So I'm going to zoom in on my face here, and I'm going to turn it on. I've got it on a toggle. I have a tongue, and this is based on my real-world tongue position. I don't have a camera that sort of shows off my face like Frux did in his video. If you'd like to see sort of that process, you can take a look at Frux's video. Again, like I said, I won't be doing any real-world cam for this tutorial series. I just don't have the equipment to get that done in a good way. I think I got a green screen somewhere. I think it's under the bed, but I'm not prepared to do that. So, you know, we'll just carry on with without that data. Just whenever I say something, take it, you know, I am absolutely doing what I'm saying. So in this case, if I put my tongue out and I go left, right, up, down, you'll see that. That was left, right, up, down. So the facial tracker gives you information about where your tongue is located. It also gives you information about where your jaw is located. I don't have that hooked up to anything on the avatar, but we'll be talking about that as we go through the tongue setup. Let's go ahead and get started. By the end of this video, you should have a tongue that you should be able to parent to any avatar and then equip that avatar and get that tongue going. That would be quite fun. Let's hop into Smooth POV and get things going. The first thing you're going to need is the tongue. The tongue was actually modeled by me and rigged by me. So I made it quite a while ago and I just found it in one of my folders and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm adding that to my avatar. So I'm going to show you what that is. Let me turn on private UI here. So I'm in my public folder, and if you go to tutorials, and you go to avatar tutorials, and then you go to mouth tracking, you'll see it here as tongue. After this video, I'll be adding the one that we make to tongue setup to the right here, and I'll provide instructions in this video on how to add that to your avatar. If you're just looking to see what it looks like, cool. If you want to do it yourself, spawn tongue. All right, there you are. And here you go. It's just a sort of, it's just a stretched cube, really. I think I just made it a cube and then I added bones to it. So that is the tongue. With that done, we can go ahead and turn off private UI. You will need a developer tooltip and a LogiX tooltip for this. Let's get going. So first we're going to take a look at the tongue and explain to you the structure of the tongue. So let's go ahead and grab our developer tooltip, aim it at the tongue, hit secondary, and then open inspector. And you'll see that we're at the root of the tongue. The tongue has a grabbable and a box collider on it. I removed all the other colliders just to sort of not have any, you know, anything to do with them that kept getting in the way. Beneath that, you'll see tongue. Now, tongue itself doesn't have any shape keys, and that's the interesting part. For the jaw and tongue tracking, and for others, depending on what you want to do, you don't need shape keys. You can also do this based on raw positional data with your bones. So I'll be showing you how to do this. You can see here that there is a skin mesh renderer, no shape keys, but there's also an armature here. And if we go down the armature, you'll see there's probably way too many bones, but there's a lot of bones for the tongue. So if I select 3, for example, I can bring up the middle of the tongue. And if I select 4, you know, even further along the tongue. I probably added too many bones. Like I said, I modeled this a while back. It is released as CC0 because I honestly don't remember doing it, but I do know I did do it. I found the Blender file the other day. If you go ahead and select tongue again, you'll see there's one material in it, and you can change that to whatever color you'd like. Just to illustrate that, I'm going to grab this material, hit primary, and change it from a pink to... Actually, don't want to do purple. That's too close to pink. We'll do a green tongue. So, you know, if your character had a green tongue, go for it. You've now got green material. If we turn around and look at the tongue, it's green. So if you wanted a different color, there you go. That's how you do that. So with the structure of the tongue explained, actually I need to talk about the tips first because that's important for a moment. I did add a left tip and right tip bone. These control the tips. I had sort of dreams about sort of mapping those to, if it was going up, the tips would go down, and if it was going down, the tips would go up, so sort of aerodynamic tongue. That didn't work out, and you don't really need it, so do keep in mind that those are there. You want to make sure that they aren't being driven, so I'll show you how to do that. So what we want to do is we want to attach to the tongue base a dynamic bone component. I haven't done a tutorial on dynamic bones that's recent or up to date, and that's because I just haven't got around to it really. If you'd like to see something on dynamic bones, do let me know. I'll go over them in more detail. I'll be skipping to just the specific parts I need in the dynamic bone component and set up here just for this tongue. There won't be things like grabbing or anything like that, just setting up exactly for the tongue. If you want more information, like I said, give me a note in the comments. Let's go ahead to attach components. Physics, dynamic bones, dynamic bone chain. With dynamic bone chain added, I'm going to scroll to the bottom here, go setup from children. Then I'm going to go ahead and remove tongue right tip and tongue left tip, like I was talking about, and that's the setup done. So we scroll up to the top here. I'm going to go right up to the top here, drop the stiffness down a little bit, deselect all, and you'll see we've now got a nice wobbly tongue. There we go. What I'm now going to do is set up what's called an effector on it. I'm going to scroll to where effectors are, but it's easier to set one up than show you how they work sort of technically whilst explaining it. If you're more interested in additional information about effectors, JawOpen actually has a great video on using effectors to drive dynamic bone locations. I'll link that in the video description. Like I said, I haven't really done a video on dynamic bones in its entirety, so if you're interested in more information on effectors, you can see that in Jax's video for now. Let's go up to the top of the tongue here, select it, hit star, which will create a tongue chart. We're going to rename this to tongue position. And then what I'm going to do is go back to the tongue base, go back to where the effectors are, here it is, and drop tongue position into the effector target. What you see is that nothing happened, that's totally fine. But what we need to do is set the effector bone index to 6. And now you see that the tongue's sort of folded in on itself, and it's actually wiggling around in a circle. What's happened here is I've basically said to the dynamic bone stuff that for bone index 6, which happens to be the tip of the tongue, you can see here, bone 5, bone 6, make it go to the tongue position slot's position. And you can see here that the tongue position slot is right there at the back of the tongue. Watch what happens when I move this forward using the blue arrow. It straightens the tongue. You want a little bit of give, so just move it a little bit back there. Too much, because you'll get that ripple going. There we go. And so now what we're going to be doing is essentially mapping the facial tracking data to this position of this tongue position slot. So if I move it up, the tongue goes up. If I move it down, the tongue goes down. And then left and right for the tongue going left and right. And that's all we're going to be doing. It's actually quite simple, given all of the things that Neos can do. So let's go ahead and get that set up. Right now we haven't been using any facial tracking data, but we're going to start using it now. So I'm going to go up to the tongue. And I'm going to go ahead and add another child slot, and we're going to be doing that so that the mouth tracking data is separate. This is something that Fruix also does in his video. It just keeps things tidy sometimes. So we're going to do here, call it mouth data. And here it is, a new slot with mouth data on it. I'm going to attach a few components to it. So we're going to go to attach component, users, common avatar system, face, and then we're looking for AvatarRawMouthData. I will talk about this component in just a moment, but I want to talk about how we get it assigned. It's data assigned. So we're going to go to attach component, users, common avatar system, face, avatar, mouth data source assigner. We talk about this one in the previous 2 videos, so do check them out. They're linked in the video description. But what this does is it assigns the target reference. In this case, we want it to be the data source. So I'll do that, grab data source, drop it into the target reference. It assigns that target reference to the user's mouth data when an avatar is equipped. Now, this isn't on an avatar right now, so we're doing a slightly different process. But what this will do, this setup will do, is it means if you parent it to an avatar, then when you equip that avatar, its data will be set up as it needs to be. For now, though, as I'm not going to parent this to an avatar just yet, what I'm going to do is steal the mouth data source from another component within my face. So to do that, I'm going to aim at my face and hit secondary, and then open inspector. This process might be different for your avatar. Just find those blend shapes like I was talking about in the previous 2 videos, and you'll find what you need. I actually went too high there. Do it again here. I'm going to go up 1. I go to mask. There's the shape keys being triggered by the direct viseme driver, and on the direct viseme driver you'll see mouth tracking source. I'm going to grab mouth tracking source, drop it into the data source at the top of mouth data source, raw mouth data. Sorry, the components are getting quite mouthy at this juncture. Pardon the pun. And now you'll see that we've got a lot of data happening. This is actually following what my mouth is doing. You'll see things like lips, tongues, mouth, all sorts of stuff. These are based on a concept of weights, and they're sort of, not exactly, but they're sort of like percent chance that something is happening. The mouth tracker works by taking a look at your mouth and detecting sort of what does it think your mouth is doing. Like, is it open? Is it closed? Like, what does it think? And then it reports those back as a series of weights. You can see weight 1 as there being a sort of 100-ish% chance that you're doing that. Remember, computers aren't perfect, so they could be misinterpreting the data, but they are reasonably confident. It's based on sort of confidence. So an example here that's quite easy to show because it's not as varied as the others is mouth pout. You'll see when I'm talking, in some mouth shapes, pout is activating, but I'm not actually pouting. If I pout, it goes all the way up to 0.99 and in some cases 1, which means, hey, there's a really good chance that this user is pouting. I'm reporting that as a 1. In addition to that, we'll play around with these more, by the way, in part 4. But in addition to that, you'll see these top bits, jaw, jaw open, tongue, and tongue roll. We'll be playing with those more than the others today. So jaw gives you a 3-dimensional positional vector based on the jaw. So if I move my jaw down, we should see a down coordinate. Looks like we're not getting much down, but we are getting a good left and right. So if I move my jaw left and right, almost like a cow, you'll see this x coordinate changes. So left, which is negative, by the way, and then positive, which is right. You should have seen the jaw go between sort of negative 0.9 and positive 0.9. The same on the tongue here. If I poke my tongue out, we're going to poke it out and go left and then right, and then I'll talk about the values. Again, it's difficult to talk about whilst I'm poking my tongue around, but we're going to go out and then left and then right. What you should see there was a negative 0.7-ish value in x, and then a positive 0.7 value in x, which was the left and right. There's also up and down, which will be in the y, so we can go up and then down. Up, down, and you'll see down is negative and up is positive on the y there. So we're going to be using this data in LogiX to move that tongue position, and it's actually quite simple. So here's what we do. We're going to go ahead and switch to our LogiX tip. We're going to grab AvatarRawMouthData. It's secondary, and this gives us a LogiX interface for AvatarRawMouthData. And then we're going to go ahead and go up to the tongue position here, and we're going to grab tongue position, hit secondary, and we get an interface card for that. And then all we're going to do to start with is link jaw directly into position. And now you'll see if I deselect all, because there's gizmos everywhere. That what you've got is actually a good position here. One of the problems here is rotation, which is kind of stifling us just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that, make sure we haven't got any problems going there. That's right, we need to parent this to the armature real quick. Hit reset rotation and then reparent it. That should be a little bit better. No, okay, we'll have to do some additional rotation here. So one of the things to keep in mind is that all of the positional data is based on a sort of orientation that lines up with the face, and sometimes that won't line up with your coordinate spaces. I linked jaw to it, didn't I? Yeah, that's the problem. See, I'm not perfect either. Let me go ahead and clear out a jaw, and we'll link tongue to it. I was scratching my head and wondering what was going on. There we go. Tongue, much better. So you can see left, right, up and down. There you go. Someone's probably screaming in the comments about that. But there you go. You see that everything's linked up normally. One of the things you might be noticing, though, is that when I talk, we're getting this really annoying effect where the tongue just like pops out on various phrases. If you notice at the start of the video, that's still happening with my avatar, and I'm still tweaking it to this day. There's a useful way to tweak it though, which is based on another positional value you've got here, which is JawOpen. So I'm looking at when I'm talking, and when I'm talking, this rarely goes above 0.2 or 0.21 over here is in JawOpen. But when I poke out my tongue, you'll see it goes to a much higher value. So let's take a look. You see it goes up to sort of 0.5 or 0.4 when my tongue is out, and that's because I need to make space for my tongue to, escape my jaw. And so what we can do here is use JawOpen to add a conditional to if we want to apply the tongue position. Let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do here is move things around a little bit so we've got a little bit more room. I'm going to clear these gizmos again, they might come back. And what we're going to do here is add a simple question mark colon or ternary node. So we go to node browser, and we go to operators, question mark colon here, spawn this in the world. And what we want to do is, oh, by the way, question mark colon will output the top value when this Boolean value here is true, and the bottom value when this Boolean value is false. So what we want to do first of all is plug tongue into the top value. This will change it into a float3 ternary operator. So you see it comes out with float3, and we're going to plug the float3 into the position here. You can just plug it into the existing arrow. And so now you see that the tongue is gone back to 0 and it's rotating around. We'll solve that later because I know that might look wrong inside your mouth, so we'll solve that in a moment. What I'm now going to do is hook up a test to see if the JawOpen is greater than 0.25. So what we're going to do here is spawn greater than. It's inside operators where we just were. I'm going to go to JawOpen greater than 0.25, put that in here, and now what you'll see is I'm able to talk normally and the tongue doesn't poke out as much. It sometimes still does, so we might want to update this to, say, I don't know, to 8. And now you'll see it's not doing it as much. I'm still able to talk. It does come out sometimes, so you'll need to sort of tweak things around, sort of see what that works at for your individual face. But if I do poke out my tongue, it still works normally. And so we've now put a limit on it that basically says, hey, don't poke out when I'm just regularly talking. It's still doing it a little bit. So we'll go up to 0.3. And now I'll just talk normally, and you'll see that you're not getting much of it coming out. Occasionally it does. It depends on particular mouth shapes that I'm doing. You could spend, quite honestly, hours changing this, tweaking around. You could also sort of see, is there a volume? And maybe if there's volume, don't do it, etc. But we've got a good enough sort of equation going here, or LogiX node graph here going to show you what's going on. We're saying, hey, is the jaw actually open? Then do the tongue, otherwise don't. The other things that I want to do are to make the tongue disappear when my jaw isn't open. This will stop this sort of weird, I don't know, it looks like some sort of like candy like rotating in my mouth. And the way that we're going to do that is we go all the way to the tongue, and we grab the skinned mesh renderer. You can also grab just the tongue slot. Let's do that, it's a bit easier. You can grab tongue from here. This is the mesh. Hit secondary to spawn an interface card for that. And then we can take this greater than here and plug that into active. And now you see the tongue disappears unless my jaw is open. Let's get rid of these gizmos again. They're going to keep appearing. So now nothing's there, and I can then poke out the tongue. And it appears, and then when I stop, the tongue disappears. You might want to delay that when it comes back. I won't be covering that in the video, but you might want to delay that so that it comes in and then it disappears. But I won't be covering that in this video. That's about all we're going to do. That's just a simplistic tongue that exists. I'm going to go ahead and now pack this LogiX up. I will always show you how to do that. So I'm going to grab my LogiX tip again. I'm going to go up to the top of tongue. Hit secondary, where it says tongue child. We're going to go ahead and go to tongue LogiX. Never name your slots just LogiX, then no one knows what it's for if they've got multiple LogiX slots going in the world. Always add what it's for, so in this case tongue LogiX. We're going to grab this new slot called tongue LogiX. I'm going to open up the context menu, go to set packing route. You'll see tongue LogiX on the bottom there. I'm going to turn to the LogiX here, hit secondary, and then clear the inspectors here a bit, and there you go. We've now got a tongue that works. Everything's packed away. I can even get rid of this material orb up here. When I poke out the tongue, we get a tongue position. Now this is only basic. I believe there's an example avatar somewhere floating around, which is a chameleon that has a really, really long tongue. I think that uses some of the similar principles. You could also add things to the tip of the tongue. I've sort of theorized I could probably do a stylus, the brush tips from the brush system in Neos. I could probably even do LogiX scripting with my tongue, which I want to try just for the sort of meme jokey value, but it's not practical. But there you go. Try playing around with it. Just to illustrate how we can use this on a different avatar, what I'm going to go ahead and do is spawn out just a random avatar from Neos Essentials here. So Neos Essentials avatars. Yeah, that's a good one. So here's the regular. Hop back into smooth POV. Here's the regular skeleton avatar. So what I'm going to do here is inspect their head. Here's their head, and I'm going to go ahead and focus the tongue here. Grab the tongue, parent it to the head. Reset position and rotation. And then I'm just going to play around a little bit by just sticking out my tongue. You can see right now it's inside the head. That's fine. We can use the gizmos and pull things around a little bit. I want it in the mouth a little bit. I'm also going to rotate it. So I'll try and get out the rotation gizmo here. There it is. And rotate this down a little bit. And now, yeah, that'll do. I can clear the gizmos here. And I could save this avatar with that tongue attached. You might want to turn off grabbable on the tongue. And then if I equip this avatar, the avatar mouth tracking source assigner that I was talking about will apply, and I can go ahead and put my tongue out. And that'll work with any avatar you parent that tongue to. So like I said, I will save this tongue to my public folder, so you can go ahead and access the complete one. You can unpack the LogiX and take a look at it. It'll be exactly as the LogiX we just showed in this video is. And I'll leave off there. I hope you have a great day. Let me know if you have any comments in the video description, the video comment section even, and I'll get back to you soon. Bye-bye.